Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the fourth day forenoon session of the CSTTP Phase 3 on the topic Does blockchain technology require cybersecurity? The speaker of the session is Mr. Sivakannan. He is having 8.5 plus years of experience in the IT industry, currently working as a technology security specialist, focusing on PAM solutions for the past 2 years in Accenture Solutions, Chennai. Certified AWS Cloud Developer, Azure Fundamentals, Azure Security Specialist, Google Certified Associate Cloud Engineer, Microsoft Certified Trainer, CyberArk Trustee Certified, and a Certified Ethical Hacker. Conducted lateral training on cloud security, Docker, and Kubernetes on cybersecurity, firm located at Dubai in December 2020, and currently pursuing as a mentor in IIT Roorkee for the Advanced Certification in Cybersecurity program. Conducted and guided more than 10 plus professionals on Azure and AWS Cloud, helped them to secure their cloud certificate and a pen tester for the 2 plus years. Enlightened 2000 plus college students in more than 15 plus colleges across India delivering cloud technology, AI, and cybersecurity basics. On behalf of the management and Department of Information Technology, I especially thank Mr. Sivakannan for accepting our invitation and to share the knowledge and the thoughts on the topic. I'm sure that all the participants will feel enriched with the knowledge after the completion of the session. I welcome you all once again to the session and hope that you all will be benefited. Thank you all. Over to you, sir.
Thanks a lot, Frida ma'am. Good morning, respected sirs and madams. You can use the chat window actually if you want to type something. And first of all, my deepest regrets for the delay. I misread the meeting time as 11 o'clock. So I was just preparing for that and I couldn't start the meeting on time. So my deepest apologies for that. Okay, so the topic today that we are going to see is, does blockchain require cybersecurity, or in other words, like does blockchain and cybersecurity go hand in hand, right? So these are all the topics that we are going to touch upon. So first would be like we will see what is like blockchain, at least at a high level overview, and the current problems that the cybersecurity is facing, or the cyber threats and cyber risks that are happening currently, and why blockchain can be used in cybersecurity. And we will see the use cases where they have already started implementing the cybersecurity blockchain, and the future use cases also. And then we will have a conclusion. Okay, let's start with blockchain. So as we all know, blockchain is actually kind of a database. It's a distributed database rather than a closed or a secure database. We are having everything out open. Everyone is carrying information about the traffic that is happening. So this is your centralized centralized, where every data is actually transferring to the central medium and it has a control plane over here. While in decentralized, we will split the work. We will be like, just like you can have centralized as every staff here is like reporting to a HOD, right? So that is a centralized. So HOD will be responsible for all the activities that is happening. In decentralized, it's like at a principal level, right? So principal, he will not manage every department's management tasks, right? So he will appoint HODs, and these HODs will report to principal, but the professors will be like, all the professors, they will not directly reach out to principal unless or unless it is necessary. So the staffs will be reaching out to HODs, and HODs will be reaching out to principal. So that is our decentralized medium. And here we have a distributed ledger, so where everyone will be carrying information here, like everyone will have the details, so every data will be open. And if anyone is trying to tamper the data, we will still be able to identify, will be able to find out the bad apple or the bad packet, and we can filter that out, and we can we can again resume the traffic. And all these traffics, every block, as you can see here, like we will have a block, and we'll be having the hash of the previous block. So we'll verify that it is proper, and then we will add our data over here, and then we'll forward to the block 2, and then we will again verify whether the data has come from the proper place. And because hash is a one-way process, right? So we will not be able to get the password out of the hash. So by this way we will be able to analyze these different things, and analyze, we will be able to identify the bad packets, and we will be able to regenerate that also. So in this way, blockchain has become the future. So everything is like now secure, and there is no like separate kind of a warehouse mechanism where we are preventing something, we are putting a lock over it, we are securing it. No, everything will be out in the open, and it will help in uh, there won't be something like a specific or a target place at all. Everything, every network would have the same set of information. So that is how we are preparing or preventing the future cybersecurity attacks. So these are all the different components in blockchain. I hope like many of you are aware of. So we'll just have a quick look at this. So blockchain basically consists of a node. So node is a computer or a user who actually has this details coming across, and he will generate a transaction. He will generate transaction. The transaction may be like coins, or it may be anything, but a transaction he will start. And these transactions with the hash values of wherever the details comes will be carried out in a block, right? And these blocks will be having a chain to follow to the next sender or the receiver. And there will be miners or the people who will be like doing this block verification process then and there, and they will also like try to get that value. And there is something called consensus protocol. Consensus is basically allowing, right? So it has this set of rules and arrangements so to carry out these blockchain operations. So it will allow the data coming from anywhere, and it can send the data to anywhere. So these are all the basic components in a blockchain. So node is your computer, transaction is the activity that is performing, so all this will be sent across in a block, and this block will follow a chain, and miners will actually be able to mine the data, and they will be able to perform the verification also. And there is a consensus protocol allowing the data to be traveled anywhere and receiving anywhere. This is how the blockchain workflow does. So whatever we have seen as a text over there, the individual components, we have put it in a flowchart over here. So a transaction is requested. So a transaction is requested, we are sending the details. And when we are sending the details, so who's requesting is the user or the computer. So it will request the transaction, and it will be sent in a block. This is the chain, that is the arrow marks indicates the chain over there. And this block will be sent out to every network. Every node in the network will have that block, and they can validate the transaction. The nodes can validate the transactions, and nodes can receive a reward also indicating the proof of work. And the block can be added to the existing blockchain till the block reaches the desired destination, right? So this is how your blockchain workflow works. So we request for a transaction, and a user or a computer request for a transaction, and it will be carried out in a block. And this block, it will be like sent to all the nodes in the network, unlike previously. And these every node can actually validate the transaction, and the nodes actually receive a reward for the proof of work, and it can be added to the existing blockchain, and the transaction will be completed. So these are all the key characteristics of blockchain architecture. So what is happening, how it is like basically different. So first is it has a cryptography. So cryptography is like we are adding it into a hash value, right? So we can use a SHA, or we can use a any kind of a cryptographic algorithm over here. So these are like validated then and there. And since hash values, as I mentioned, they are like one-way process, it would be very easy to identify the corrupted packet or corrupted block, and we will be able to easily replace it. Second is your immutability. So any records made in the blockchain cannot be changed or deleted. So ideally, it should not be getting deleted. Even if it is deleted or changed, the hash value will change. So it makes the block null or the record null. Okay, provenance is like we can track the origin of the every transaction that is happening inside the blockchain ledger. So we always have the history, just like your TCP protocol, right? So every packet will have all the details of the transmission from the application to the browser. Provenance is actually referring to the fact that it will be able to track from the origin requested to the destination. Every transaction can be done, and it is like decentralized. So sorry, we don't have a fixed database kind of thing. We don't have a kind of a fixed database or a storage medium where we are actually saving everything, and if the attacker or hacker is trying to hack it, then he'll get a bounty. No such thing happens here. Everything is decentralized. There is like no a critical medium or a secondary, like a less critical one. Everything is decentralized and distributed across. Okay. And fourth is your anonymity. So we can have two types. So one transaction, like we have a private DTD, like distributed technology ledger, like where we can prevent the confidentiality of the users end to end. And that's why nowadays the ransomware, like they are demanding the bitcoins, right, which is a part of blockchain, because it would be like difficult to identify them as a end of like once the ransom is over, you will not be able to track or trace them, right? So that's blockchain actually gives you that kind of anonymity. And last is, though it is like anonymous, it is still transparent. Like every data can be like it can be validated at any point by the miners, and it can ensure like the data at least is like integrated. So the user will not be able to user will not be identified, but still the data will be like transparent. So these are the key characteristics of your blockchain architecture: cryptography and immutability, and provenance for that, having the traffic, entire traffic, and decentralization, where it is everything is distributed and we don't have any powerhouse. And anonymity, it can maintain the identity of the hacker. It is difficult to identify the hacker. And last is transparency. So transparency is like every data is like transparent, it will be available or so these are the different types of blockchain system. Hello, am I audible? I'm audible, right, sir? these are the these are the different types of blockchain system that are available currently. One is your public blockchain architecture. Public blockchain architecture, public blockchain architectures. Okay, I'm not mute, so means I'm audible. Okay, from okay. These are the different categories of your blockchain system. So one is your public blockchain architecture. So a public blockchain architecture actually means that the data and access to the system is available to anyone. So anyone can be part of it. Like if you see, like last year they came up with this pi blockchain or bitcoin, right? So pi is a medium where anyone, any public can be part of this. So they will receive the data and they will send the data unknowingly without any information to them. And everyone, like whoever is like willing to be participant of that architecture, then it becomes a public blockchain architecture. Second is a private, where it is like not open to the public, but we have like a private, we know the set of users, and from a particular organization they will actually do the blockchain transactions over there. So, and last is your consortium. Consortium is like your where like people from multiple organizations, only the known people, not anyone can be part of it, but only to the known people, like you will be we can have a blockchain system across, or blockchain architecture across. In like cloud terms, like this is something similar to your public cloud, like your uh, Google Drive, right? So anyone can use your Google Drive, but the data is kind of limited, so it will be limited to 15 GB, right? So public chain is something like anyone with a Gmail account can access it, right? And private is something which is where the cloud is like very much limited to the private within the organization. And consortium is like kind of your community cloud, like where organizations, like there were like multiple competitors in healthcare, like who jointly tried to invent the vaccine for COVID, right? So those kind of things where multiple companies are like coming together, and instead of going for private, they know the key players in it and they will just create a cloud for themselves. So that is your consortium blockchain architecture. So these are all the different comparisons of the blockchain architectures. So if you see here, you have the public consortium, and private. So consensus determination is whoever is like providing the approval. So here all miners, here only selected set of nodes, and here only within one organization they will have the will be the players in that miner in that whole blockchain process. Second is your read permission. Read permission, like public, it is open to all public blockchain, and consortium, it is like public or restricted dependent, and private also, it is the read permission is public or restricted. It can be restricted or it can still be kept it as public. Immutability level, so it is like almost impossible to tamper, but if it is private, then it can be tampered. So anyone like who has the read only access, they can try to tamper it across. Since whoever is not the player, they can be able to tamper this, right? But if everyone is a player, then there is no then that tampering will not be happening. Efficiency, like in public it would be low because everyone is actually using, but in consortium and private it would be high. Centralization, no. Public, there won't be any centralization, but in private there will be a centralization. We will have someone who is the uh, kind of boss or the owner of that, and it will all be leading to him, right? And in consortium it would be partial. And consensus or the approval process, here we don't require any permissions, and for consortium and private we actually require the permission. So these are all the comparisons of the blockchain architecture. As we know, like we have three types of blockchain architectures: public, consortium, and private. So consensus determination, it will be like all the miners can be part of this, but here we can have only selected set of nodes, and for private it would be only one organization. Read permission, it would be like public to all. It will be public or restricted, or public or restricted. Immutability level is it is almost impossible to tamper it because everyone is a part of that player, but these two can be tampered. Efficiency is, this is low, but it is high for consortium and private blockchain. Centralization, it is no centralization available in public blockchain, but there are centralizations that private will have the centralization for sure, and in consortium it is like partial. Consensus, to join that we don't require any permission, but for consortium and private we actually require the permission to join that blockchain architecture. Okay. And what are all the advantages of blockchain is, we have cost reduction. So the cost will be we don't maintain any database, we don't add any security, we don't add any security plan for it, we don't add any um, vulnerability scanner, we don't perform any security testing. All these result in cost reduction, right? And in many cases there are like lawsuits also happen, like if you take a GDPR, which happens in the European Union, if any data is like kind of breached, if we breach the GDPR, then there will be a huge fine that will be levied on the companies, like Facebook paid those fines, right? So those kind of lawsuit or litigation penalties can also be avoided, right? So that results in a huge cost saving for the company, so cost is reduced. History of data, we can be sure, like what we call it as a CIA triad, right, in our cyber security. So one is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So integrity means whatever data I am sending should be the same data that I receive, right? And in our normal transactions, like we don't have the history of data, right? So we may not know whether it has followed that same path, right? It may, yeah, man in the middle attack can happen, and someone in the middle can actually steal the data, and he can replace his own data also. So we don't have the history also, or someone can just read the data and they can simply place the data again also, right? So we don't have any control over the traveling path in the in the normal data traveling. But here we can have the entire history of data, since everything is since everything is decentralized. We have a provenance happening, so we can have a track of all the we can have the track of data from the beginning till the end. And third is your data validity and security. So once entered, the data is actually difficult to tamper. It's very hard to tamper. Even if it is tampered, it can be easily identified by the miners, and it can be like replaced easily. And even like every block will have the details of the previous blocks that it has traveled through. So it is very easy for us to replicate and continue with the transaction, right? So it ensures maximum data validity and security. So these are all the advantages. One is cost reduction, history of data, and data validity. So with this, we will close the blockchain. We'll move on to the cyber security. So this is what basically blockchain does. Right now, we will see cyber security. Cyber security, we always have cyber security risks, right, which happens at a high level, at a huge tech firms, where we will have where we will do the um, where they will be like prone to attacks easily, and the hackers will try to steal the data. They will lock your system and they will ask for ransom, and if the data is getting breached, then they have to pay penalties also. So, and it actually tarnishes the company's image also, right? All these are happening. But last year again, like due to this pandemic, everyone has started working from home, and once they started using connecting to open networks or less secured networks compared to our office networks, then the attacks have become more and more actually happened. So the total cyber attacks happened in 2020 is twice the amount of attacks that had happened in 2019. So everyone has started, and that's where like at the beginning of the pandemic, every industry was trying to uh, limit the cyber security measures because they want to reduce cost due to the loss that they are currently facing in the business. So since there was no business, they want to do a cost cutting, and the first thing that they keep their hands is on the cyber security part. So they try to reduce the cyber security measures, and companies, like many of the cyber security companies, started losing business also because of that. But as the pandemic progresses, we didn't expect the pandemic to be this long. As the pandemic progresses, what happened is a lot of cybersecurity attacks started to happen. And the reason being, like, as I mentioned, users, the developers, everyone has started to work from home. So it actually results in a lot of Wi-Fi attacks been happening. And it was when people actually do a work from home, they tend to be distracted also. So a lot of phishing attacks happened, and where the data getting breached, confidential data were getting stolen. So all this happened, and again the industries, like they started increasing their cyber security measures again. So currently every industry is like trying to ample up this cyber security measures, and this is where like blockchain, since it is already a secure medium, it can fit more easily or more beautifully than compared to others. So that's where the future of blockchain cybersecurity also lies. Okay, so cybersecurity and the increasing risks. So we'll see a quick overview of whatever recent attacks that had happened. So as I mentioned, it is yes, cyber attacks like continue to haunt the online activities at even more sophisticated and damaging levels. And as you know, like your Twitter had got hacked, Google was like not providing the service for some time, and there was a huge cybersecurity attack that happened at SolarWinds. All these attacks are like now started to happen in a more frequent way. These used to happen, but the volume of the attack or the impact of the attack has become huge, and it has become more frequent also. So as you see the second point, the use of the internet and cybersecurity incidents have increased tremendously. Since the beginning of 2020, there have been like 445 million cyber attacks being reported, which is double when compared to 2019. So 445 million cyber attacks has happened in just 2020 alone, right? And I think this status is only for the first 8 months, first 2 quarters of the year. Not 2 quarters, first 8 months, actually 2/3 of the year. So consider the remaining 4 months, right? And ransomware attacks are the common way of attack that is happening, and other form of data breaches were also happened. And like there were ideas that even the elections, presidential elections, had also like kind of been manipulated. The results had been manipulated previously, and so it actually means like the cyber security is not just a issue to the IT companies alone. IT companies are big giant tech companies alone. Even the governments and other agencies are also like now prone to cyber attacks, and the impact on them is also like very much is tremendous, right? So that's where like companies have started increasing their cyber security measures, right? So the damage caused by the cyber attacks in 2019 was amounted to 2 trillion, which means like now that twice the amount of attacks. So it will be close to $4 to $5 trillion. and it is actually the spending like a 2 billion in a bid to mitigate these malicious attacks, right? Companies are like increasing, every company is like now trying to increase at least $2 billion to aid the cyber attack prevention, right? So these were all the some of the attacks that had happened recently. So Bitcoin was involved in like 76 billion of the illegal activities. Like since it actually it is a anonymous action. So in cybercrime and trade, so Bitcoin was actually almost in the revenue of 76 billion dollars. And a ransomware attack happened like every 14 seconds. So this was according to the official report, annual cybercrime report. And there are like many of the attacks that goes unreported also. So you just randomly download a, you want to play some games in your workstation, so you actually download that, but that game is actually a paid version, but you are not interested to go for that official version. So what you do is you go to website or you go to dark web, you try to download some cracked version without understanding its impact. You'll be like downloading a cracked version and you will try to install, and your system may get locked, right? Your data will be getting locked, and the say he will actually request you the ransomware, right? So he will, the attacker whoever has performed that attack, he will ask for a ransomware. And these kind of attacks, like they don't go reported, right? These are not huge, these are personal. And personally this attack was caused due to the negligence or like not following the standard protocols, right? So these attacks, like they never go reported. So consider that the uh, attack is happening every 14 seconds. The reported attacks are like just happening every 14 seconds. Consider the amount of unreported attacks that have happened, right? So that's where the cyber security has also started growing rapidly, because these attacks have become more and more frequent, and it is creating more and more impacts on the business, right? And after that, we have small businesses that are like primary targets. Like gone are the days where they actually attack the giant tech companies, and they will try to uh, damage or tarnish their image, right? Nowadays they are targeting the small businesses also. And like there are so many things, like in US they have something called your small business administration. So where due to corona, they are actually giving money, they are giving some money to the small business as a relief. So those are the places where the attacks were happening a lot, right? And this report by Cybint actually says that two-thirds of the companies have experienced attacks such as social engineering, phishing, and DDoS attacks. DDoS is your distributed denial of service in the last 3 years, right? And small businesses like making up to 13% of the cyber crime market, right? So they are not just going after the big giant techs, but they are coming after the small companies also. And to prevent this only, actually many of the companies, like if they are like a small company, or uh, if they are like small or medium company, and if they don't want to spend money on the security testing part, so what they do is they have something called your bug bounty programs. So bug bounty program is, let's say I am the owner of an app, like you can take any example. I know like Canva is one app where you actually create some posters and images, right? So that Canva app, instead of they perform a security or a vulnerability testing, what they do is they give to a they give to an open source vulnerability community actually. So that community is called uh, bug crowd, bugcrowd, bug crowd. So what happens is they will say, hey, bug crowd, please take my app. They will give some certain set of in scope and out of scope elements. So this is my app, you can perform any security testing, right? So this bug crowd is basically a community for the white hat hackers, like where if I am interested in security testing, I can just go there and I can randomly perform some security attacks. So they will specify the in domains, in scope domains. So on those particular domains I can do the security testing, and I can find some bugs. If the bugs are like valid, and if it is having a huge impact or a very good potential potential, then the Canva company will pay you a bounty. based on the impact of that defect or the bug, they started doing, they will provide you bounty, right? So this is how there are many companies which are like trying to mitigate the attack that is happening via cyber security, right? The attack, as I'm mentioning, it's like not some technical attacks. It would be like as basic like bypassing the OTP, or like when it comes to a verification link, the verification link, email verification link may not be a HTTPS, it would be only a HTTP. Those kind of simple defects also, they will actually, if the white hat hackers community can identify and report to the Canva, then the Canva will give them some bounty, and these bounties generally will be in swags or gifts, or it will be in a good uh, amount in dollars also, like minimum of $100 to $2,000 you will be getting as a bug bounty, right? So this is one way of like preventing the cybersecurity attacks, but again, that is not stopping all the attacks, right? That is not stopping all the attacks, and that is not stopping the attacks from the other companies also. So these were the top 10 cybersecurity incidents that happened in 2020. So the first one is Twitter. Like they have gone after the Twitter, and I hope like you may all remember that, like Elon Musk and some of the other celebrity people's Twitter handles were hacked, and they actually it was like they were tweeting about the bitcoins. They were saying like, you can send me bitcoin, I'll give you twice the amount, right? And people actually, people in the United States, they actually donated a lot of money, and they didn't get anything in return. And this attack was like for a short time, but it again shows you the impact, right? Like Twitter is someone who's like very much concerned about the security. It's not like your Microsoft has more they are more inclined towards the usability, right? So they may not like worry about the security. The security is like kind of a second priority for them. The first priority for them is usability. But Twitter is someone who is secure. They don't even go with some normal cloud computing services like your AWS, or should they go with GCP because it is more secure. So that Twitter itself like uh, was getting hacked, and uh, they generated the Bitcoin worth more than like 100 million dollars. Okay, and second is your experience breach attack. So all this happened only in 2020, and just see the amount of number of people that are getting impacted, and the revenue that is getting lost due to that. This is experience breach. So wherein like they have like records of 24 million people that were getting hacked, and there were like almost close to 8 lakh business data getting stolen. And MGM Hotel. This is a very famous resort that is present in the United States, and details of over like 10.6 million people were revealed. And this is Cognizant Technology Solutions. So their attack, like they were getting a denial of service attack, and they paid close to 50 to 70 million for ransom. So even the tech companies were also under attack. And California University, which is an educational institution, and they paid a ransom of around like 1.14 million attacks, 1.14 million. And to continue, this is a this is kind of your government body, right? This is kind of your government body in US, Tillamook County. So the county employees and the citizen records were getting affected, and like close to 3 lakh dollars were paid for ransom. Finestra is one of the popular clients at a financial institution, and it is very popular even in India also. Like there are many of the companies which actually use Finestra, and they became a victim of the ransomware attack, and that actually disrupted their business operations. And it caused like they were not available, the application was not available to the end users. This is official Portugal industry energy organization of Portugal, and close to 10 TB data were like stolen, and like 11 million was $11 million was demanded for that. And this attack, probably everyone would have been aware of Zoom. Like Zoom, anyone was able to join the Zoom. That was one of the biggest drawback that happened around like April, and it was not secure, and they were not having any login. Anyone with the link was able to log in, and there were like I think in Japan, I guess Japan or in somewhere in an Asian country where they actually shown some adult content to a school Zoom meeting that had happened. Those hacker has actually hacked and they were showing that. And so Zoom, they also kind of improved because every application when they start, they don't worry about security that much because they always focus on the functionality, the way the application works, whether it is meeting the end user needs and how to expand that, how to support for multiple users across multiple regions. All those things will be like support, all those things only they will keep in mind. Security actually comes at the last. Once they have established, then only they will start to think about security. So Zoom is one classical example of how that happens. Since they don't have the business or revenue at that point when they started, and they didn't expect such a rapid growth. So what happened is they didn't focus on the security uh, previously, but once they have established, or once those attacks happened, they actually mitigated those attacks and they have enhanced their security. Okay. And last is your Mitsubishi Electric. I hope like many of you know about this brand. And close to like 200 MB files were like stolen. So these were like the top 10 cyber security incidents that happened in 2020 alone, right? So this is where like the question comes: why blockchain can be used in cybersecurity? So what were all the previous like errors that we were seeing? Like, so first is you are eliminating the human factor from authentication. As you know, in this cybersecurity whole chain, humans are the weakest link, right? Humans are easily uh, they can be easily influenced, and they can be, the data can be easily stolen from them, right? With social engineering or like by phishing, in by any medium, humans are like kind of the weakest link, and your strongest ability is the power of your weakest link. That's what they used to say, right? So you are as strong as your weakest link. And wherever like humans involved, there are always a chance of getting attacked and data getting stolen. So to avoid all this, so they come up with we can use blockchain where we are completely eliminating the human factor in it, right? So businesses like now able to authenticate the devices and users without the need of a password, like using blockchain technology. So this actually eliminates the weakest link, like the humans, right? And the humans, even if they are like uh, they have been part of a so a security engineering attack or kind of any other attacks also, by just knowing the password or the hash value, you will not be able to get the data, right? And another important thing is use of the centralized architecture. So not every account is same. Like I may have the account of an end user, but there is someone with a privileged account. Privileged account is who is a manager or who is like the C-suite, right? Like your CEO, CSO. They will have their accounts are called privileged accounts in the application value. Like if you are using a database, then there is something called admin. So the admin will have all the privileges, right? So the centralized architecture will definitely have some privileged accounts, right? So just by using the decentralized architecture in blockchain, we'll be able to eliminate that privileged account concept also, right? And and not only that, actually in centralized architecture, if you are going for an architecture, then you can go for there is something called your privileged access management tools also. Like CyberArk is one of the uh, key players in that privileged access management. So they just focus on preventing the uh, root account and database account and the admin accounts, right? Just to prevent cyber attacks from happening, right? But that is one way of like mitigating. But to eliminate it, we can use the blockchain, right? And blockchain, it actually uses a distributed public key infrastructure also to authenticate the devices and users. So it doesn't matter, right? So it doesn't have any special data. Every data is like across all the nodes in the network. So it actually eliminates the human factor from the authentication also. So that is where blockchain technology can be used. That is why blockchain technology can be used within cybersecurity. Second is decentralized storage, as we saw previously. So we don't have all the data in a database hidden and secured, right? So everything is available in the open, so the storage is kind of decentralized now, right? And we will be able to easily identify if the data has been like compromised also. And everyone in the blockchain network is now responsible, right? So that we need not have separate database and have some separate security and measures for that, but everywhere the storage itself is like decentralized end to end. Third is your traceability. So as we saw previously in the advantages also, like we will have the entire, you will not just verify the integrity of the data alone, will not verify whether the proper data has been received. We are not just checking only that, but we are checking how the data has transmitted from the source to destination. Is it the valid path in which it has it has transported? And this also includes to something called your non-repudiation. So non-repudiation is like repudiation means I can do something without leaving any audit trails. If I can just log into your website, college website, and if you are unable to trace me, then that is actually repudiation. So non-repudiation means whoever is logging in must get logged somewhere, or must get the trial log must be present, right? So the traceability are actually relates to the non-repudiation also. So someone can verify their signatures authenticity also. So you cannot simply do some sign and say, hey, I didn't do that, right? So non-repudiation is also plays a key role in traceability, right? And the data can be like, no matter like how long that does that take, you will still have that history of those logs and the traffic that has happened. So that will again like lead to the traceability factor. Okay, so last is your DDoS, denial, distributed denial of service attack. So if there are any malicious packet or corrupted packet that has come, then it can be easily stopped at any point. So it need not go to the receiver and then get stopped or filtered, but it can be stopped at any node level also, right? So that is where DDoS has is also one of the key reasons why blockchain can be used. So if you know attack is like happening, it can be stopped at any level, right? It need not go till the end. Even currently we are using web application firewalls and level 4 firewalls, right? uh, so all this actually stop you only at after reaching that website, right? So it will filter the packet only based on the traffic that it is receiving. But in your blockchain transactions, it can be stopped at any point, right? It need not go till the browser level and it has to get stopped, but it can be stopped previously also, intermittently. So that is where DDoS attack is also plays a one of the important reasons why we go for your blockchain cybersecurity. And the last concept is your decentralization. So it is using a distributed ledger. So that is like it is very easy for in the blockchains are transparent also here. So every action in the ledger can be easily checked and viewed. So these are miners are like your ticket checkers who come in the bus, right? So they can stop the bus at any point and they can verify the ticket and they can verify whether the ticket is a valid one, right? Just like that, it can be like imagine if that ticket checker is actually traveling with you in the bus also, right? So that is how, like at any point you can verify the data, and you can deny the service also, as we saw previously. And this entire history can be traced also. So these were the 5 reasons why blockchain can be used within your cybersecurity. First is your eliminating the human factor form. So humans are the weakest link in the cybersecurity form. By eliminating that human factor from the authentication, uh, it will become more secure. Actually, it will increase the security of the application multifolds. So again, we don't have a centralized architecture here, so everything is decentralized. So we don't go for our simple logins, and the attacks like they cannot be like the attacks cannot be users passwords will not be like stolen or cracked using brute forcing or social engineering, right? So that is one reason we are eliminating the human factor. Second is your decentralized storage. The storage is like not centralized in a database, right? So it is now entirely decentralized. Um, and third is traceability. It can always be tracked at any point. It can be verified at any point, and there is always a non-repudiation that is available. So whichever user is performing any action, that will be getting logged, and even after a very long time, also history. After a very long time, also we'll be able to view those packets that they were sent originally. And fourth is DDoS, a distributed denial of service. So any malicious traffic at any point, like they can be stopped, right? It's not like it will be stopped only at the destination level, but it can be stopped at any point, and it can be denied the service also. Last is your decentralization. So the entire concept of a blockchain is running in the distributed ledger technology, right? So everything is like decentralized, which makes the blockchains transparent, and it can be like at any point it can be like trusted and verified. Okay, so these are the reasons why blockchain can be used in cybersecurity, and these are the some of the real-time examples that where they have actually implemented these scenarios, and after that we'll see the future use cases. So first is your cryptocurrency. Everyone is like quite familiar with that. So cryptocurrency is your Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, where blockchain is the technology behind Bitcoin. So uh, Bitcoin cannot survive without blockchain, but blockchain can survive without Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is kind of one of the technologies that come out of the blockchain, and that has become highly controversial. And even government of India is like not supporting the Bitcoin on mining at this point. Um, Reason being, it is we will not be able to trace the sender or the receiver in this whole transaction, and uh, cryptocurrency is one of the real-time examples of your blockchain, and currently they have like 1,000 different cryptocurrencies. I mentioned there is something called pi is one of the cryptocurrency, and ethereum was one of them. And this goes, and the distributed ledger technology, DLT actually stands for distributed ledger technology, that provide that protects the integrities of the cryptos through encryption methods and public information sharing. So if it is a public architecture, then public blockchain architecture, then everyone will be one of the nodes, right? So the data will be traveling through every node, so it becomes difficult to uh, track that end user. And but the legitimacy is actually ensured because they can transfer the currency to its origin, so they can trace the transfer of the currency to its origin. So the amount or the value of that will not be reduced, though if it is like transferred by everyone, the value will not be getting reduced, right? Because they will be able to trace the currency to its origin, right? And encryption also helps the control of amount of cryptocurrencies being created. And encryption actually, just like we cannot like randomly uh, print all the rupee notes and make it available in the market, right? That will diminish the value of the currency in the market. Similarly, encryption actually used to help the amount of cryptocurrencies that are being created, so thereby the value is still stabilized. So these are all the real-time examples where they have used. So you may know like mobile coin. So they actually designed their product to easily integrate with WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, and Signal. Javi, Javi actually started their token sale in 2018, and these were the real-time companies that are present across the world. And this is Coinbase. Like more than like currently 20 million people are actually using the Coinbase, and the company has processed more than like $150 billion in trades alone. Founders Bank, it will be like the first financial institution that runs on blockchain, and it is like owned by a public rather than by a corporation. So the once you have implemented the blockchain technology, right, the entire thing will be owned by the public rather than by a corporation. So that is their idea behind jumping into the blockchain technology. So these are all the different types of real-time cryptocurrencies that have used cybersecurity in blockchain. And not just the cryptocurrencies, now even the traditional banks are also now preparing to migrate to the blockchain technology, because so like traditional banking, like it will be it has to be highly secure, and there should not be any there should not be any leakage or any vulnerabilities around there. So the use of this decentralization and the use of the security across every node, at the storage level also, and at the transaction level also. So uh, if you understand like the banking or the kind of the lost set of people that they want to move into, right? So they will not jump into anything that much easily, because they are more concerned about the security than usability. And if even like the traditional banking industry, if they are trying to incline towards a blockchain, means it has that many advantages in doing, in moving towards blockchain technology. And these are all the some of the real-time banks that they have already started doing some pilot works on blockchain. So Santander is a bank, I guess it is in US, I believe. So Santander is actually piloting a blockchain based shareholder voting mechanism and the decentralized votes. So they are actually having a shareholder voting mechanism, and by which the decentralized votes can be like incorruptible, the data will not be changed, right? So they are trying to use that Santander Bank is kindly going for this shareholder voting mechanism. Second is your JP Morgan. JP Morgan is one of the big fours, right? So big four companies, and they have actually given $150 million to National Bank of Canada, and this is to um, do a blockchain dependent, this kind of a pilot version or trial version for them. Like they are doing a blockchain dependent, so they will incorporate it at all aspects of the debt life cycle, including your origination, execution, and settlement. And Barclays Bank, and so they have actually started a blockchain fund transfer patent. So they have the patent for the blockchain fund transfer, and they have now started uh, creating a patent for your KYC also, know your customer processes also, and that enables the bank to, like, where they can store all the personal identifying customer information on a secure blockchain. So the data will be like highly secure and it will not be cracked. So these are some of the biggest companies that are like now getting into the uh, traditional like getting into the cybersecurity blockchain. Your Santander, JP Morgan, and Barclays. So Barclays already have a patent for fund transfer. Now they are trying to extend it to its KYC also. Just like bank, another another like uh, important or a conventional industry is healthcare industry. So I remember I started in healthcare industry only. So in those days, like just to do some testing, right? So testing is like a very simple process happens in your software life cycle. So you, if you have a login page, you need to test whether like you are able to access the application only if you are entering a valid username and valid password, right? It is as simple as that. You have a login page, you have a username and password, and you have to test by entering the username and entering the password. Click login, you are seeing the home page. This is a very fundamental test case. And healthcare, I was working for a German healthcare company, and they said they don't want us to use any system actually to do the execution process. So we will write the test case in a Word document. We will take a printout of it. Like we will get that approved by the client, and then those approved test cases we used to take a printout of it, and we will validate it across the system web application. So I'll hit the URL, and my test step will say verify verify the URL is entered, and it will say that login page is displayed would be my result. So I have to now write login page was displayed, and then I have to mark the test case as pass, test step as pass, and then I have to sign, give my signature with date. So this was just happening like 8 years back when I was started, when the world was going into more of a computer and technology oriented. Healthcare people still remain at a paper based validation actually, right? So they were like at least minimum 20 years back, or older than the current one. And even they are now trying to embrace this blockchain technology, right? So again, you have to understand the impact also. One other thing is, for financial industries, we have something called your PCI DSS, Payment Card Industry Data Security Standards, right? So where you are Even if you're like entering any card information, if you see, the card details will be masked, right? You will be having a XXXX because they are complying to the PCI DSS standard, right? And if they are not following that standard, then there will be a huge penalty that will be that would be levied on the companies that are not following those standards. So to overcome those penalties and fines also, generally people are going towards this blockchain technology. Similarly, in healthcare, we have HIPAA, HIPAA, Health Information Privacy Amendment Act, I guess. So where the if you are a patient, then your details like what is your medical condition, what is your illness, what are the medications that you're taking, those data must remain confidential all along, right? It should not be getting leaked at any point. No third person should be accessing those details. So that is basically your HIPAA standard, right? And to eliminate that breaching, right, HIPAA breaching, many of the healthcare technologies now, like they are slowly moving towards the blockchain technology, right? If you see here, they would have mentioned patient data is important to cyber criminals because it demands much more money on the black market. Like they can steal those patient data and they can sell it in black market close to $50 per record. For every record, you're paying like $50, which is like close to 4,000 Indian rupees, right? Just for one record. Imagine if you can steal like thousands of record, then you'll be just see. So that is the impact of those datas, right? And that is why preventing those datas is very important, and that's where companies also going for cyber security currently. But blockchain is another technology where everything will be distributed and still be secured. So that is where, so these were all the real-time examples of healthcare in the blockchain. Like we have something called hashed health. So hashed health actually convened a value-based core working group, uh, like to improve the quality measures and payment efficiency for hospitals and healthcare systems. So hashed health is one of the first companies that has actually started using blockchain to perform a or to improve the quality and payment efficiency for hospital and healthcare systems across US. So not just the patient actually paying the hospitals. In many cases, the insurance company will also directly pay, right? Insurance companies will pay to the hospitals. So it will actually improve the payment efficiency of those also. This is hashed health, and this is Philips Health Suite. So Philips Health Suite actually gives healthcare system, and where they are in- actually offering your AI and blockchain solutions to help fix those problems, right? They are looking this kind of a generic one, so they actually gives healthcare systems. They actually go to each healthcare provider, and they will indicate or highlight the key pain points in their system, and they can offer some AI and blockchain solutions for that. So they have, just like your SAP tool, they have something called Philips Health Suite, which is specifically addresses the issues at your healthcare system level. Okay, and third is your health linkages. So health linkages is actually developing a blockchain based tool that shows a chain of information, right? So medical chain of information is like what happens is the patient's history, right? Sometimes it may be like not in order. If it is like not kind of arranged properly, then it may actually get confused or the data may get lost, right? If the patient is like doing redundant visits, if they are doing multiple visits, and you should not have the fifth visit detail after the second one, that will actually cause a lot of confusion, and it will there may be a chances of misdiagnosis also that is happening. So they are we know like in blockchain everything will be like traveled in sequence, right? And so they are starting to leverage that advantage into this health linkages, so that the medical professionals will have the entire patient's history in a chronological order, right from the first visit till till the last visit. Everything will be in a chronological order, and it will be secure, so that no one will not be able to tamper or uh, manipulate the records, right? So that is where like they are using the real time solution to a blockchain solution to a existing healthcare problem. Just like we saw early, not just the technical companies, financial and your healthcare institutions, even the government is now like facing a lot of cybersecurity threats, and that's when like even the governments are like now starting to have a closer look at all the latest technologies in cloud, like Azure, like your federal government, US government, your Azure Chinese government, Chinese and German, like those data will not be mixed with the remaining data. China, German, and federal data in the US, right? So they will have a separate database. Everything will be maintained securely because they don't want that to be mixed with the general public, general data, which will like result in some kind of data loss, right? Say they don't want to do it. So that's why like even the government are like now having a very closer look on all these latest technologies, and they are trying to keep themselves more secure as possible. uh, these are some of the real-time examples again, like your government of Malta is one of the countries in that is in European region. So they have something like your digital innovation authority. So they actually promote boost innovation and investment in those emerging tech scene. And Australia actually partnered with IBM to create a government of blockchain ecosystem, right? To store the government records, they are starting to use a blockchain technology after partnering with IBM, right? So this this solution will be a model for the other governments also going forward. So going forward, like there are many cases, right, like where the government data is like getting lost, or it is uh, it is getting destroyed in a fire accident, you know. So to prevent all that, even if you are keeping in some secured servers also, there are chances of getting hacked, right? So whether it is a physical data or whether it is a uh, database data that is residing in a database also, those data also will be getting hacked. So to prevent all of those, we actually go for your blockchain ecosystem. So where the data, if we can store the documents in a blockchain based infrastructure, then we will be like able to secure it and without losing, and without uh, with restricted access, without losing the data. Okay. And so it will be, if Australia has successfully implemented it, then it would be a model for the other governments also. And in US, like the Colorado State Congress is actually looking to pass more bills involving the uniform distribution of a token, right? And these were some of the official government industries which are like started to use your cybersecurity blockchain. After that, we have your defense and military. So not just your government now, even the militaries are also, because they want their data to be confidential, and they want their data to be confidential, and it should be prevented also, right? So even in defense and military, they started using blockchain technologies. So these are some of the real-time examples. So they have something called your, I think this is your IoT example. So even defense and militaries in US government cyber security, they have also started moving into your blockchain technology, right? And this is IoT, and the examples of IoT are like mentioned in the previous slide. So IoT, as you know, like Internet of Things, and they are the ones who are like more getting attacked by the distributed denial of service. You can Google about Mirai botnet. That was a real-time attack happened at the IoT things, right? And from robo sprinkles, so everywhere in our home automation, IoT actually plays a very significant role. And if you're connecting everything to an internet, and automatically you may connect your work laptop or office laptop to also to the same Wi-Fi as the IoT. So which means like if they can hack your IoT, then they can have control of your laptop. If they can control your workstation, then they can take control of your organization also, right? So that is where IoT also, like they are starting to use the blockchain technology here. And these are some of the examples. So we have a HDAC. HDAC is actually focusing on introducing blockchain IoT cybersecurity protocols. And IoT is where you actually connected multiple devices are getting connected, right? So it will initiate that IoT cybersecurity protocol to all the devices in smart factories, smart homes, and smart buildings. Cisco, one of the again like leading companies, like they are working with the supply chain company Flex and Rockwell Automation to establish blockchain networks in their company shipping and manufacturing process. So whenever they are sending the hardwares from one location to another, they are like trying to add blockchain in that, just to make sure that the shipping is like done properly. It is not getting uh, mishandled, or it is not getting malicious people are not accessing the uh, malicious people are not getting accessing that, and to have a secured one. And last is your filament. Filament actually uses a different blockchain communication tracing and protection tools, and they are actually kind of trying to make it more simple as like inserting a USB. So these are some of the real-time IoT examples in blockchain. Okay, so these are all the real-time examples that have happened so far, and now we will see the what are all the future blockchain cybersecurity use cases. So first is your secure private messaging. As you know, like for the past 2 weeks at least, WhatsApp is like creating a lot of problems, like based on their new privacy policies, right? So using blockchain, we can actually come up with more private messaging, right? And they should not be able to get the context, even the context also. And blockchain actually ensures your end-to-end encryption and superior option to their end-to-end encryption. So since everything will be like a standard security protocol, they can easily implement that secure private messaging. And so this is one of the future use cases where we can see blockchain and cybersecurity will go hand in hand. And second is your IoT security. Like you'll start using the artificial intelligence along with your blockchain, and you can do some you can secure all the overall systems and devices by decentralizing their administration. So problem with IoT is everything is kind of centralized to a particular device, right? Like your Alexa or your Google Home, like everything is actually centralized. So by using blockchain, we can actually decentralize them. So it will give the it will allow the devices to make their security decisions on their own, right, rather than depending on any central admin or authority. And this will actually in turn make the edge devices more secure, right? So every attack will happen only at the edge device level. Even if you're trying to hack a very big company, the attack will happen at a end user machine, right? At endpoint security, like they will try to breach, because end users are like more easily vulnerable than the privileged accounts. So they will attack a end user, attack as in like they will do a cyber attack. They will try to get the end user credentials, and then they will move towards, they will do something called your horizontal movement, where they will try to cover as much as network as possible, and then they will do a vertical movement, which is called a privilege escalation or a privilege creep. So where they will actually the end user will now take the credentials of, or now take the powers of an admin, and then they will try to get more information, and then they will try to attack the system. So it is very important to actually secure the endpoints or the edge devices. So that is exactly what your blockchain will do in future. In IoT security, they will allow the devices, edge devices, to take their security decisions, and uh, thereby like decentralizing, and like you are eliminating something called a central administration, right? And securing your DNS and DDoS. So as I mentioned, like Mirai botnet was one of the IoT attack that had happened. Previously, Google was down due to a denial of service attack, right? So a distributed denial of attack, like in IoT you have multiple devices that are connected, so all those devices, if they can turn into a bot and if they can attack a central administration, then that is a distributed denial of a service. So even in our advantages we have seen, like denial, distributed denial of service can be stopped at any point in your blockchain, right? So any DDoS attack, it need not go to the administration and then it must be getting prevented. Rather, it will be getting at stopped at an early stage. So during transmission itself, at any point, a miner can check and he can block the traffic, right? So that is how it will prevent the DDoS attack from happening. And the DNS is your domain name system where your IP is actually mapped to a naming system, and that is also very centralized. At one particular table, all this will happen. You will have a list of all the IP addresses and um, all the host names, right? And that is a very centralized table, so it will be very easy for the hackers to actually infiltrate the connection and to identify the IP address, and in IP address they can perform the attacks, right? So they actually make a website inaccessible, cacheable, or even like redirectable to other scam websites, right? So for blockchain can prevent those kind of uh, attacks by decentralizing the DNS entries also. So by using decentralization, we can secure the DNS and DDoS, and the storage, decentralizing the medium storage. So this is another one of the effective use cases where blockchain will be used. So we will not be going for any particular database also, but we will not be having any single vulnerable point or single point of failure. Like we will be like have everything in a decentralized data storage format, and this will make this migration method will make it harder and even impossible for the hackers to penetrate the data storage system. And many storage services are like accessing the ways blockchain can protect the data, like you have Apollo currency team, which is part of your Apollo data cloud. So that has already embraced the blockchain technology in their systems. So many of the storage companies, like your Apollo data cloud is one of the company, and they have started embracing the blockchain technology. And here they are talking only about the storage, medium storage. Like previously we used to store the data, like it may be a relational database, it may be a database, relational database, or NoSQL database. So data will be present in databases, and if it is not secure, those data, like your business financial records or your health records, they will be like infiltrated. And blockchain actually supports to prevent. Okay. And last is your the provenance of your computer software, like it will have the entire traffic available here. So blockchain can be used to maintain the integrity of the software downloads also, like your MD5 hashes. Like blockchain, it actually have multiple hashes within that entire transaction itself, right? So every block is getting hashed, and a new software identities compared to hashes available on the vendor sites. So currently we are doing that, right? But in blockchain technology, the hashes are permanently recorded in the blockchain, so you cannot manipulate the hashes, and the information, it's like not changeable also. So blockchain can be more efficient in verifying the integrity of the software. Like if you download the software at Softonic or any other uh, companies, right? So you will have something like your MD5 hash. Once you have downloaded, if the downloaded software also has the same hash, then then we can verify that the software is secure. It doesn't have, it was not a malicious software, or it doesn't have any malicious, it is originally from the vendor, right? So that is what happening previous in the previous scenarios. But now what we are doing is, instead of doing the hash at one level, in blockchain we are like hashing each block, right? And these hashes are like non-mutable also, or like it cannot be changed also. So this will give you more efficient way in verifying the integrity of the software. And you are verifying the cyber physical infrastructures. So we are talking here about both cyber as well as your physical infrastructure, both your cloud infrastructure as well as your on-prem infrastructure, right? So it will actually information whatever we are generating on infrastructure components, like through the blockchain, can be more assuring to the complete chain of custody. Chain of custody is having a track of who is owning the data, who is owning the data at any point in time, and the information that we are gathering based on the infrastructure components, um, it will give you more information, or it will give them more assurance to the complete chain of custody also. And this will be again like going forward in the future, this will be considered as one of the parameters also when they are submitting for any auditory or compliance medium also. Like there are so many auditoring mediums for your cloud and cloud data and infrastructure data also, right? Like you can go for cloud control metrics or CAIQ. You can go for Cloud Star Alliance, where they will give you some stars: star 0, star 1, star 2, star 3. And to get certified, or to say that you are compliant to particular standard, you need to maintain a chain of custody. And currently we are following technology, but blockchain can improve that, or it can give more assurance uh, to those chain of custody list, right? And not just the data at rest. Whenever we are talking about database, we always talk about data at rest, right? So not just data at rest, even the data in transmission will also be protected very well in blockchain technologies, right? So by using the complete encryption feature, so data transmission can also be prevented, uh, secured, and it will prevent the malicious actors from acting it. So it may be an individual or an organization, it will be like preventing them. And this will in turn increase the confidence and the integrity of the data that is getting transmitted through blockchain. So we are not just talking about the data that is residing in the database, right? So yes, storage is one of the biggest advantages. Decentralized storage is one of the biggest advantages. But even when the data is in transit or in motion or in transmission, right, even at those cases also we have solid encryption features in place to ensure that the data transmitted through blockchain is more secure, and it is like more secure, and the integrity is still maintained, right? And even if someone is trying to steal the data while they are in transit also, it will not be possible. So last is your attacks, adversities like caused by the cyber attacks. So as you see, like we move into your banking and your healthcare, everyone is trying to move into blockchain just to prevent themselves from cyber attacks, right? Just to prevent their data from cyber attacks, right? And through the data verification process that we are doing in blockchain, or like for any data that goes in through the system, these like just by moving into a blockchain, we can prevent those data. And the example that they have mentioned here is for the unmanned military equipment and public transportation, um, like where it is going to be in autopilot mode, or you driverless cars, like Tesla has started testing driverless cars, right? And all those like will be dependent on the data. And if the data is kind of if the data is compromisable, or if the data can be corrupted, then it will uh, result in a huge damage, right? So we can start using blockchain in those areas also to actually have the secure data uh, while in transit or while at rest, and we can prevent such mishaps from happening. If you remember, like Tesla actually, when they were trying their driverless car, it actually ran over two people, and one of them actually died due to the false data, right? So we can prevent all those errors from happening. So this is the conclusion. So as we know, blockchain, the biggest advantage of using blockchain is because of its decentralization. The storage, the data storage that we are currently using, those are getting decentralized, and the medium is decentralized, and your DNS server is getting decentralized, and the transmission is also kind of decentralized, right? Transmission, so it will prevent your distributed denial of service attacks also. And due to this decentralization, it will it will be increasing the security at access control level. It will be increasing security at data storage level and network traffic level also. And they are not present in a single location. It is present everywhere. And that's where like blockchain is going to be the feature. So it will be one of the efficient mitigation strategies for the cyber threats, which are going to definitely increase in the future or forthcoming days also. And it will also start to provide solution to many of the painful processes in the growth, like in your insurance and other financial departments also. So that's where your blockchain technology is very much required in cyber security. And cyber security is also like very much required in your blockchain. Okay, so with this I'll conclude my. Do you have any queries?
Participants, you have any queries, please ask sir, or you can post in the chat window. So I think we don't have any queries from the
Okay.
session. It's a real wonderful session. You have covered basic security attacks, white hat attackers, cryptocurrency, privacy policy, and the centralization, and much more about the recent trends in cybersecurity. Thank you for your wonderful session, sir.
And thanks a lot, sir. And you can also reach out to me if you have any personal like queries in the later also. I'll try to answer it. And the industry, it's like going towards more and more. Uh, it is under like a lot of attacks. Like there are a lot of new attacks that are happening that we haven't even mentioned here, like your solar winds that had happened. So it is more the cyber attacks that are happening, the more we are going to look for these kind of new solutions like your blockchain and others. And that's where it is very important for us to get updated in these technologies also, right? The solution that you are learning here you can implement in your own problems also. So that's where let's keep learning and we'll keep improving.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Participants, I'll post feedback link in the chat window. Kindly fill it for your attendance as well. Thank you. Kindly join for the session afternoon at 4. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thank you.